And we're back. I'm Jay with Guilty of Crime, and happy Tuesday. I guess it's St. Patrick's Day, right? Happy St. Patrick's Day, y'all. Come on in. You know the drill. Do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Get a membership if you can. Sorry for my tardiness there. I'm rarely tardy, but I apologize. So, how's everybody doing today? We got an excellent, in my opinion, excellent episode today, and it's going to give you everything you need to know before David gets arrested. But first, again, thank you guys for being here. Apologies for my tardiness. Sorry about that. I have another. I have a job, and I had to go mail some stuff out and whatever. I got tied up. So happy St. Patty's Day, and I also want to welcome our newest mod. Where is she? Well, we know Mama Pearl's a mod. We got Mama Pearl as a mod. We welcomed her. Where is my girl? Okay, my girl Tiff is right below or right on top of Kel. You guys, please welcome Kel to the Crime Crew mod squad. Please click that like button, show your support for the channel. Every like helps get this channel into the YouTube algorithm. You got that right. So please welcome Kel. Kel is our newest mod, and we're so glad to have her. All right, guys. How's Midnight Lace? How you doing? All right, you guys are already kicking this off. Jammy Dial, thank you so much for the $1.99 super sticker, and then Holly's coming in hot with the second one. You guys are trying to get to that goal, aren't you? All right, you guys know what we're doing today, and trust me, when we're covering a case like this, it's like a puzzle. There's bits and pieces everywhere, and you can go into one rabbit hole and get stuck there and then really not know much about anything. And that happens to me many times. I'll go into this rabbit hole and I'm like reading, but it's still only the same one thing, right? It's like today, Neil Langston flips. David faces new allegations involving minors. Why am I not surprised? And David's arrest is imminent. His arrest is coming, guys. I put a poll up for you to say, will he be arrested by April 1st? Midnight Lace, good to see you. Back at you, Kel. Lacey, how you doing? Come on in. Lady for Justice, always a pleasure. Edith, you said happy St. Patty's Day, but I didn't say hi to you. Got corned beef cooking. Isis, tardy for the party. And you know, this is one of those cases too where it's not so hard on you. Like, oh, I just found a little child that was justice for Celeste Rivas. She is a child, but this is eye-opening for all of us. I don't know if Flojo TV is going to pop in here, but I was just looking at some clips. And guys, I got to tell you, nobody said anything before, including Celeste's family. Celeste was on Twitch with David, and he literally said, and I didn't know what he said at first because they bleeped it out. He said, "I've got you social media trained." And then she popped off with, "Oh yeah, like raping girls." Mind blown. Then David's like, "Hey, yeah, that. Can we delete all of it?" Because people in chat were saying, add him to the Epstein files. People knew what was going on. And guys, hindsight is 2020. All right. But we need to do better. And this little girl didn't get to be a little girl. And I think she just thought she was so much more mature that she could handle. But we just don't know what happened to her. We do know where some of her remains are, but not all of them. All right, Shadow, what's up? Rocco, how you doing? I'm saying hello to everybody before I start. I just came in hot because, you know, when you're working on a case like this, no, it's not as sad for me as if like an 11-year-old that I can relate to being, you know, but this 14-year-old girl had no justice thus far. Even her parents aren't talking. They didn't do anything. She was all over the internet with this piece of trash, David. And by the way, I didn't know who David Anthony Burke was until he got arrested or until he got named that Celeste was in his car. So David Schmavid, I don't like his work. It's garbage. He started making it in the closet so he can use music for Twitch. He's trash. In my opinion, he's trash. And so are the many others that hang around him. They're trash. They're dark. They're evil. And they run around doing whatever they want because they have way too much money. All right. They can give us a little bit of that money and we'll do much better. Mary Joy, good to see you. Mama Pearl's welcoming Kel. Tracy. All right, guys, we're getting into it. Mama Sage. Sadie's mama, big hugs to you. I hope you're doing okay today. Kimberly says we're mostly well behaved today. Yeah. I'm glad you guys are all here. Sorry about the lateness. It's rare, but I just don't like being late. I don't like being late, and I don't like dead silence, if you've noticed. I don't think I ever make you guys just sit there in silence because that just doesn't work for me. Yeah, Neo doesn't want to do that for that fool. Yeah, listen, guys, Neo's complete, and this is not a clickbait situation. Neo literally flipped on David. Now we know Neo was arrested and released, but he flipped on David, and it's not even using David's name anymore. Just that motherfucker or something like that asshole. And then he refers to Celeste, but when he refers to Celeste, he doesn't say her name and all. He's more concerned about himself, but he calls Celeste the victim. So that's what this show's about today. Neo Langston is absolutely flipping. Is he going to get immunity? Rumors are that he's already told law enforcement what he needs to with the grand jury that they brought him into. That's why he was arrested. So, guys, this is just crazy. Midnight Lace, someone will give you that in a bit. Midnight Lace needs Foxy's email. I don't know if you guys saw that. Mom and Dad love the money. I think everybody loved the money. I think everybody was entranced. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Everybody was entranced with that money. And I got to show this. And you know what? I'm going to show it real quick. If Flojo TV rolls in, I'll tell him thank you and we can drop his link because I like his. He didn't edit it. This is the first time I was able to hear it actually what they said. So this is the extended footage with the Twitch stream. We're going to start off with that so that you guys can see that not only was he a pedo with Celeste, guys, he was a pedo in general. He had other little girls that he was effing, and that's his words and Celeste's words, not mine. All right, Jinx says I was late too. Catherine, watching from the East Tennessee, really enjoy your vibe and detailed coverage. Well, thank you. My list to go to Tennessee it's big on there. It's big on the list. So if there's anything popping in Tennessee I should know about, let me know because I would love to go to Tennessee. I'm also a country fan. You might not have guessed that. Well, I don't think that's going to be the case, Sadie's mama. I don't think Neo is going to, I think he is going to get immunity and he knows exactly what happened. So that is not the full justice, but also so do his other friends also know. Good to see you, Melissa. I'm glad that you're working and busy and we love you. Thank you for showing up. All right. He was gifted a membership to Flojo TV. All right. This is what I want to do. Before I start off anything, I want to show you first clip I want to show you is this Twitch stream that's hopefully unedited. This Twitch stream shows you exactly what they were doing behind the scenes and what they were doing, what they were saying. Okay, so this is from Flojo TV. Go sign up to him. You can't unhear it once you hear it. This is the first time I've heard it unedited. So let me open this up and make sure you guys can hear. If we have to play it a couple of times, we will. Let me preface this for you, okay? Let me preface this. They're on a Twitch stream. Twitch may not be something that you guys know about, but it's a stream that gamers like to use. They'll game, right? They'll game and they'll talk and they'll do their thing. And now there's Twitch. Cheapskate, what is up? You're right on time. Oh, Neo already cracked Harris, and I'm going to tell you why today. It does, doesn't it? Welcome, Eric and Harris. Thank you. It's already cracked. Guys, you guys just don't know it yet. I'm about to present to you. This is not a clickbait video where I'm saying Neil Langston flips. Is he going to get immunity? New allegations. Is it really happening? No, this is really happening. I know it's taken a long time for it to happen, but it's happening, my friends. And today's episode, I'm going to show you what is happening and how. All right, so buckle up, buckle in, because we're not going anywhere. If you have St. Patty's Day plans, well, put your earphones in and go support the channel while you're out partying, all right? And yes, Mama Pearl, I love country because of you first. And then secondly, later on in life, I married my wife that absolutely loves country. And there we have it. All right. And we got Sergeant King. Salute to you. I like the name. Kristen Perry, thank you so much. Love your content. Order my bags. Much love. Yes. Thank you, guys. I just put up the bags. We have a very limited quantity. Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate you. Tiff appreciates you. Let's get into this. Thank you so much. I have my goal up there, and we're out. Good to see you, Carly. Good to see you. All right, guys. We're going to play this. Please listen up if I have to play it however many times. This is, in fact, Celeste Rivas, okay? This was Celeste streaming with David. She seems to be David's favorite little girl, all right? She was his favorite little girl until either an overdose or something went wrong.
Definitely don't.
Hold on.
I media trained you.
Okay, hold on before I got to turn it all the way up because I'm using Mr. Flojo's clip.
That's controversial.
It's controversial of raping kids.
Really good.
Okay,
It's been a good one. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Mwah, 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 mwah. Oh my! Delete everything. Delete everything. Everything goes. Everything. Take that one off.
Took it off because they did.
I mean, are you guys hearing what's happening? Did you literally just hear what he said? Did you hear that he said that he's media trained her? And she says, you mean raping girls? I'm going to play that one more time because there's another stream that's connected directly to this where his fans in chat, fans I use lightly, are saying he should be added to the Epstein list and that he's a pedo. All right. And that is exactly what he is. David's favorite country song is I Got Friends in Low Place. I wish I could play that right now. What's up, Stars? D, how you doing today? All right. Let's one more time because I also want to look at this other stream that has the Epstein reference. And he knew exactly what he's doing. And he had several Celestes. Okay. Several Celeste is what I'm going to say. Hold up. Come on.
Season it? It's already seasoned, but it's Alfredo. Chat. Pray for his career, chat. Are we done? Are we
We need to delete this.
Maz, can we delete all VODs?
Now listen, he's trying to delete the VODs, which are the videos, and not only that, guys, they're putting in chat about the Epstein files and adding him, and they pray for David not to be arrested, and he goes, we need to delete this. That is Celeste. I want you to know that. That is absolutely the girl that they found in his trunk, dismembered. She had her head and her torso in the top bag, and she had her arms and her legs in the bag beneath that, in his Tesla, tucked away like a piece of garbage. Okay, so this is who this character is, and you can see it for yourself. I mean, let's see, which one are we on? Is this the one? Hold on.
As soon as the stream ends, delete the stream too.
Hold on.
Can we delete anything? You done for, bro? Y'all are not done?
He said you're done for. Now you're going to Epstein. Wait.
Oh, look it. Answer that one. That's so mean if you don't answer
Which
that.
one? What's good, David? Big fan. Mixed by me. Bro, thank you, Mitochondria. Appreciate you.
I gotta sign with him if you even.
Where's your immediate?
I personally.
All right, so that's who he is, guys. That's who he is. That's so wrong, and they all knew it. All right. Yep. He tried to throw her away like she was nothing, and he replaced her. He replaced her with several other girls named Celeste that also look like Celeste in cadaver bags. Yes, we're gonna get to all that. On the last episode, I did tell you guys what happened finally, but we're gonna also read the articles that just came out. And where we last left off, David was arrested. We didn't see any of these clips yet on my channel. So here's Neo technically flipping on, and he was there for 40 minutes with the grand jury answering questions, and it's possible he's going to get an immunity, folks. I'm pretty sure he will.
How did everything go in there? Hey, Neo, why are you being called to testify today? How did everything go in there? Why are you avoiding testifying? Do you think David is innocent? Is there anything you want to tell the public about the David case? Anything?
He's absolutely flipping on him. Just wait, because the next part we come up is the new article where he talks about, or where we talk about him flipping and him calling his friend, his BFF boyfriend, an asshole. He's distancing himself from Neo, and he's saying that Celeste is the victim. Although he doesn't use his name, he uses I. It's all about Neo. David's all about David. Neo's all about Neo, and Celeste is no longer with us. And yet the parent should absolutely be ashamed. He might already have it. His lawyer claims he had zero involvement, yet he claims he has receipts. What receipts if you weren't involved? That's what we're getting to. I'm so glad you're here, stars, because that's what we're getting into today. He claims he has zero involvement, but he spent at least 40 minutes with the grand jury, and yes, there's going to be an arrest, and we're getting to all that. All right, we're getting to all that. So look at this came out yesterday. Neil Langston, now he's distancing himself. Celeste Rivas was a victim. That was him, and then pointing to murder. Right, this is yesterday. According to TMZ and other sources, you know, TMZ is one of the lead sources out there. He's flipping, and he's not even just flipping like softly. He's flipping publicly on him. There's no new evidence in the death of Celeste Rivas. It was not accidental, and it's something people didn't pick up over the weekend. Now, Neo posted, we're gonna tear all this stuff apart. Neo posted on Saturday. Okay, today is March 16th. Yesterday was Monday, March 16th. Today's the 17th. This came out yesterday. This past Saturday, after Neo went before the grand jury, this is what he's saying. He posted on Saturday, and I'll just read it to you. I understand that due to the silence, let me make sure you guys are on the same page. All right, I'm going to read it to you. Now, guys, I got to tell you, it's Neo the Asian, and it's on Instagram. However, of course, your girl Jay from Guilty of Crime went over to Instagram to find Neo the Asian, and everything is wiped out. This post was actually not technically meant to be, it was not meant to go to the public. It was only to close friends and family. Allegedly, it got leaked. Oh, he's being arrogant as, yes, he is. Now, listen, this was not supposed to be public. He says, I understand due to my silence and the silence in general, it leaves a void in information that everyone wants to fill. But at the end of the day, this case isn't about me. It isn't about you. It's about getting justice for the victim and her family. And I care a lot more about that than trying to fill that void because of the public opinion. Obviously, wasn't doing my part at first, but now I am, he says. I've stayed loyal to my mindset, and I will continue to. I'm not publicly going to give any opinion or emotion about this case because I find it disrespectful and not my place to weigh in on it. But he's going to do it anyway soon. All right. I'm not going to spam post to justify and perform my feelings and thoughts for the internet, trying to satisfy people who already made up their minds about me. In time, the record will speak for itself, and I'm moving on with my life. But don't worry, throughout this episode, you'll see. All right. Now, the word victim in this, he never uses Celeste's name. And when you actually break down how many times he said I, that's all it was. Let me switch this for you so I can show you quickly. All right, so we're going to go between SF Investigates today and TMZ mostly. So SF Investigates also picked up on this post, and he said, if you have to tell my side of things, that means you were involved in the things. You just want everyone to believe you did less of the things. People who weren't involved don't have to say my side of things. And how tone deaf are you exactly? Your weep for me post has 11 references to you and not a single mention of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who is dead. She's dead because of the things you're trying to explain away. Nobody cares about your feelings, Neo. This is about Celeste and justice in her name. Look at this. That's the same post. This is the post from Neo the Asian. Me, I, mine, right? Look at all these mine. And this is the one that calls him actually a dickhead. This one says the worst part is that I've told so many people that I trust and thought knew me as a person on my side, all for that to be thrown out the effing window as soon as I get arrested and they slap that dickhead's name, that's David, next to mine. All right. And for the record, the thing I was arrested for, I wasn't even charged. Then never filed it. And my warrant was retracted because there's more to the story than what's on the news. So what is he saying to you guys? He wants us to believe that he didn't do anything, but he's making these statements about the things that he didn't do, and he's now calling David an asshole. He's turning on it. Same when Asia made her Reddit post, woe is me, I'm the victim. Someone break out the cheese and the crackers and the tiny little violin. This guy totally flipped, guys, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were already a plan in place between his lawyer, Neo's lawyer, okay, and Neo and the prosecution. I don't doubt it at all. All right, so he uses the word victim, which is Celeste Rivas. That's critical. Sources say that Los Angeles County medical examiner had enormous trouble establishing Celeste's cause of death, guys, in the large part because of Celeste's body when it was discovered in the trunk of David's Tesla. You guys remember, right? We do not know if the ME ultimately established the cause of death, but even if they did rule it a homicide, they had so much trouble, it will almost certainly be a hotly contested issue when the case goes to trial. Here's the thing. If the defense argues she could have died from an accidental overdose, which I told you guys they would use because of the pictures and the stuff they're snorting and the drugs and the alcohol that we see Celeste being surrounded by, if the defense tries to argue that she died from an accidental overdose, Neo could be a critical witness, calling Celeste a victim. Does not suggest that it's an accident. So, guys, be careful with your words, especially when you're in the spotlight of the media and prosecution. It points to a deliberate act of homicide. That means she's not a victim. He also knew that she was way underage when they met and the whole time they were dating. They all knew. Now, TMZ has broke the story most of the time the fastest. Neo has broken with David, calling him a dickhead and saying he has a lot more information about the case than's been reported. And we're going to get into this too when we get onto YouTube. All right, we're going to talk about the indictment and the deal that David may have made with the jury or the grand jury for the murder of Celeste Rivas. Our sources add that Neo's an important witness in her disappearance and how she ended up in David's trunk of the car. I don't like the trunk. Now, look, I don't like that frunk. Now, I did this same thing happened to me. I went to Neo the Asian, and that's him, guys, but he has 0 posts with 3,000 followers, and he's following 391. He just wiped it out. This is the Instagram that I was looking for. What says guilt more than wiping all your stuff out that you don't want people to see? Now, the person that knows probably 90%, let's say he's even 100%. There's 100% him and David. I think that he 100% of his portion knows exactly what happened to Celeste Rivas, and he's finally speaking. So we're going to talk about Neo, the person who knows what happened to Celeste, finally speaking. And he did, guys. He did his part with the grand jury. All right, so let's get into that. There's a lot today that I want to show you. Thank you guys for being here. Hit that like button, subscribe, get a membership, all of this stuff. And thanks for that clip, Flojo. Let's
development in the David case that I think everybody overlooked. Neo, who is clearly split with David, no doubt about it from what he posted Friday afternoon. They are no longer aligned. And I can tell you that based on our information, that's surprising to even David, that everybody thought things were copacetic. They are not. Neo clearly has beef with David. And that could really be bad for David, because Neo says he knows a lot about Celeste Rivas and what happened to her. What I think people missed over the weekend is that on Saturday, Neo posted again and basically said,
and this is what we're talking about. I just showed you the post that he posted. But the real kicker here is that he is publicly splitting himself from David. Now, I don't believe for one second that that Instagram post was an accidental one that accidentally got to the public. He made it for a few of his close friends and it somehow leaked out. He's absolutely, in my opinion, distancing himself from David because he now knows what the charges are going to be. There's stuff that was presented at the grand jury that he's not talking about. And the biggest part, he's been there the whole time. He's been there when Celeste was in the room having probably sex with multiple men, maybe even Celeste with David and Neo and all the things going on, all the time she ran away from home. Neo, the Asian, was there. All right. Yeah, exactly. He's trying to distance himself because he knows that he's probably going to get immunity. All right. That's what's going down. No more party time for Neo. Well, we'll see. I think he's going to testify against him and not give two shits, because what are friends for anyway? Well, they're all surround David because David had a bunch of money. So you call that the entourage. Follow the money.
he wasn't going to speak out anymore, that he was done speaking. The justice system would run its course the way it would. And then he says this,
Right.
he says, it's about getting justice for the victim and her family. And I care more about trying to fill that. So the reason that is so significant is that we are told the coroner has had an enormously difficult time establishing cause of death.
Thank you.
We don't know whether they have established a clear cause of death yet, but whatever they have done or haven't done, this was really difficult, and it could easily be challenged if and when David is indicted, and that is going to happen.
It is going to happen. And again, guys, TMZ is not my typical source, but TMZ is the source for this case and some of the other big cases that are in Los Angeles and the Hollywood area. That's why they're on this case. All right. So Neo, we saw him going into court. We see him distancing himself. And then he says he doesn't know anything, but he does this cryptic type of post that never says Celeste's name, calls her a victim, and calls David an asshole. I have to be next to that asshole or dickhead's name, whatever, all the same to me. And then it's all about him.
Because it could have been theoretically, a drug overdose, and somebody panicked, and that's how she ended up in the trunk of the car. And so that wouldn't be a murder. That wouldn't be a homicide. That would be accidental death.
Yep.
And you wouldn't call somebody under those circumstances a victim. But Neo is calling Celeste Rivas a victim. And a victim suggests homicide. And that suggests he knows.
You know, they don't have the determination or cause of death. They haven't released it. But I do believe they call it homicide. And the reason that they don't know the cause of death, but they know it's a homicide, is because somebody's body doesn't end up in a trunk with your head and your torso in one bag and your arms and your legs in the other. That's just not how it happens. But you got to remember that car was sitting there for days before it was towed to the Hollywood tow, where they smelled an awful smell of decomp. And Celeste had allegedly been unalived for quite some time. Right now, we're going back to talking about either she was in the freezer or somewhere that was kept cool so she wouldn't completely decompose. Because remember, her missing date, guys, the last time anybody had seen her was what, 2025? People switch different dates. Celeste was a victim of, first of all, she was a victim of homicide. Second of all, she was a victim of CSAM, right? I bet you they're going to find some CSAM. You do not cut up a baby who OD'd. Exactly. Ding, ding, ding. I know this is awful. It is. But if you don't know the whole story and what happened, then you don't understand when David gets arrested, the gravity of this. And I think everybody's going to flip on him, guys. So far, one by one, his inner circle is starting to talk. And they're doing it the wrong thing, because in this day and age, 20, 22, 23, 24, everything goes to social media. Thank you. April, you said it was April. Last time seen January 2nd. Thank you, per Steve Fisher. So, guys, the last time, if she was last seen per Steve Fisher, and I'm not going to debate this, I'm just saying, January 2nd, 2025, that was the last time she was seen. And then they recovered the remains months later. I don't have the timeline in front of me, but you are going to decompose within days, weeks, after a month. It's just an awful mess. So we're going to get back into that today to decide whether you guys really believe that she was either frozen or kept somewhere cool. Because then once she was put into the Tesla, everything just started disintegrating. It's kind of like when you're cooking dinner. I hate to put it this way. You guys go in the freezer, pull out some pork chops, and you lay them on the counter, and you notice how fast the water drips off the water lug and it starts to change the color of the meat. That is my analogy for what happened. And again, prayers for Celeste Rivas and her family. But the moment she was decapitated, dismembered, and placed into that car, she quickly started defrosting, so to speak, in my opinion. All right, let's talk timeline, Stars D. David gets brand new Tesla, February 2025. He gets old Tesla detailed, gets ticketed in February twice, and neighbors notice the smell since February. And you know a lot more about that than I do. I have the timeline, but not every little thing of when they parked and what. So thank you. I appreciate you filling in those blanks. Just hit that like button, Kathy says. Just do it. Thank you so much. I haven't seen you in forever. FarQ, hey Jay, mods in chat member for 4 months. Best place to be. I haven't seen you in a while. Or if I did, I said that last time. It's been a while. Happy St. Patty's Day to everybody, guys. All right, flies started at the tow yard. Flies hatch on dead bodies after 2 weeks. But what happened to that dead body before it got to Tesla, guys? Where was it? There's actually 157 people in here, Mr. Mabster, and you're number 91. Thank you. I appreciate you. All right, let's continue. There's a lot.
Something beyond knowing that she ended up in the trunk of David's car. So we don't know whether the medical examiner is going to say cause of death undetermined, cause of death accidental, cause of death homicide? We don't know. I doubt they would definitively say accidental. But the question, will they say homicide or will they say undetermined?
No,
If they say undetermined, and even if they say homicide, having this much trouble.
Now, listen, guys, it's 4:44 right now. You guys know how I am about those angel numbers. Say a prayer for Celeste Rivas that she gets the justice she deserved. She deserves to be alive still. Wolfpack's in the house. Good to see you. All right. Master Death Hancock says she died after August 24th show, found in the same black tube top, which I don't know. But hey, if that's what they say, then train has paused. Let's get it going. Choo, choo. Thank you. Thank you, Midnight Lace. I appreciate you. All right. Yeah, if anyone wants to match that and get it going, that'd be cool. Angel number, definitely got a prayer. We need to say a prayer that she gets the justice she deserves. We got a lot. Let's continue.
Reaching the conclusion, it's going to get challenged, and witnesses are going to be critical in this case. And it sounds like Neo is going to be a critical witness. So here you have Neo, who is furious at David, says he knows a lot about the case. He is calling Celeste Rivas a victim, suggesting a homicide. And clearly the DA believes Neo knows a lot because they went to the length of arresting him so he would appear before the grand jury. So when you put all of that together, Neo could be a critical witness in this case. As for where the case is right now, the grand jury was hearing evidence for months. They should have convened last Thursday if they were continuing, and there was no grand jury on Thursday. And that suggests that either the grand jury investigation has come to an end or it's near one. And everything we're hearing is it is all but a done deal that David is going to be indicted for the murder of Celeste Rivas.
Guys, they're putting it's a done deal. He is going to be indicted. The question is when. And then the question after that is, and please don't let him get out on bond, number one. And then will it make it to trial? All right. Master Death, I think the Silver Springs girl is another decoy. They, in my opinion, knew since July. All right. Neo could be dead next. When someone thinks they have some kind of power, they get people. Yeah, I don't know if David would roll like that. I don't think David rolls like that. I think he's just a greedy pedo and and a murderer. Now, let's add, in my opinion. Joanne, thank you so much for the $9.99 super sticker. Happy St. Patty's Day. Thank you. I agree, Maggie. I went back on my own and watched the last time that Celeste was with their family, and it was disgusting. It was disgusting to hear the things that I heard from the family and what was going on. Now, let's get back into the timing of the claims about Celeste's death by David's ex-friend. All right, we're going to do some more of that digging in. All right, there's a lot of different clips here today because I want to make sure I get the point across to you that David will be indicted, and I absolutely believe that Neo Langston has flipped and will take an immunity deal. Now, they are seeking out other witnesses. They have made it so that David's parents have to testify. Now, did they go in there and say, I plead the fifth? We don't know. But we have other little kids that were running around in that universe that knew Celeste, and I wonder how many of them, and I say little kids, they can be 14, 15, 16, 18, or 20, that knew Celeste was not supposed to be there. And it's green, baby. Happy St. Patty's Day, all. Thank you so much, Far Q, for the $5 super chat. All right. She was 12 or 11 when she met him, 14 when she died. She's 13 in that clip. Okay, so the Twitch clip. She is 13 in the clip. It's 3 a.m. Watch her mouth and behavior. I think she's on something. Watch her mouth movements. This is sickening. Poor kid. SF has another post. 2 more PD victims. Yes, we're going to get into that. We're going to get right after this. We're going to get into that. And Denise, that's why this episode today is called New Allegations Involving More Minors. Now, Denise, is that is SF Investigates clip right on the right on his page at the beginning? Just let me know yes or no. Anyhow, let's get into, actually, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do this first. This is what David hit with new allegations about minors that will probably lead to charges. After this, we're gonna go into that.
I'm going to bring in missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher, who's been looking into this case, has been covering it from the very beginning. Steve, thanks for taking the time. First of all, good to see you. Why do you think he posted this? I know his attorney said that it was maybe a way to correct misinformation, that he was facing harassment, but why post this, and what's your take on it?
I don't know what prompted him at that moment, but it's, especially the ones that were sent out to the private close friends group were just so completely tone deaf. It was all about him, and I think I pointed out that he mentioned him 11 times about me, never once.
And this is important that you guys know this part of the story with Steve Fisher, whether you like SF Investigates or not. I don't have a feeling are biased against him in any way. He's bringing the information, it gets verified, and this is where we are. Now, Steve Fisher and TMZ are two of the biggest top sources to give you the fastest information, other than the children that were running around the scenes like this guy with David. All right.
Reference the crime or Celeste's name. And then, of course, that's followed up by the lawyer's statement saying that Neo won't be making a statement, and then Neo makes a statement. So, which I wasn't impressed with either. And I don't know why the timing, maybe he cut a deal. And he feels like it's time for him to start trying to reclaim some sort of reputation back. But look, 6 months is far too long. He's had a lot of.
And guys, you know what? Now they're having a beef. I just read. Thank you guys for pointing me back to the new SF Investigates post, because I was using the old ones earlier. These new ones, he's talking about TMZ and Harvey and why they're pushing a narrative that Neo is referring to Celeste as a victim, since he still won't use her name, and how it's significant. There's a beef going back between TMZ and Steve Fisher. And then now we've got Steve Fisher, which is always on News Nation. I'm sure every time he comes.
Opportunity.
What does it tell you about his alleged involvement? Because there are parts of this where he talks about, he says, I had nothing to do with this, that he's legally fine, but then talks about his version of things in the statement from his lawyer. His lawyer indicates that he's fully cooperated. He continues to assist the prosecution. Part of me is wondering what exactly, if he did testify in front of the grand jury, what did he say? Is he a part of this, or is he not a part of this?
Oh, he
literally says that, he's legally fine or something to that effect, but then talks about how he knows so much more about this crime. And his attorney in his statement calls it a heinous crime. So did they just learn it was a heinous crime when those legal documents came out?
And guys, I assure you, he was testifying at the grand jury. We just saw him in the beginning. They made him go. They arrested him, took him there. After he did his testifying, he was there for 40 minutes. They also present other information and ask questions. He knows a lot more about what prosecution is looking for. And in my opinion, he knows 110% what happened to Celeste Rivas. He knows that Celeste Rivas was 11, 12 when they started grooming her, and that there were other underage children that Celeste herself refers to as graping the young girls. That's from the very beginning of this episode. All right. What's up, Indy? Jamie, how you doing? All right, let's continue.
Out that she was dismembered. I doubt it. Neo's.
Yeah, this is interesting, right? His attorney says he has nothing to say, but then here's Neo, the Asian, that's wiped his account. My client, Mr. Langston, will not make any public statements at this time, guys, as the investigation's ongoing. What I can share is that since returning to Los Angeles, Mr. Langston has fully cooperated with law enforcement and will continue to assist the prosecution as needed. As the investigation continues, it will become clear that Mr. Langston played no part in this heinous crime. So if his lawyer is calling this a heinous crime, then this is not an overdose case. And that he was and continues to be wrongfully persecuted in court of public opinion, resulting in unwarranted and belligerent harassment directed towards his client. Again, he's worried about Neo. We sincerely hope that justice is ultimately served for the victim and her family. Shocky law. That's the law. We're going to continue. Because I have my own opinions about the silence. We talked about that already. All right, let's continue.
Receipts means when he says he's got receipts.
He's got receipts
I can only imagine
of what?
It's text messages between him and David, maybe discussing some things about what happened. I don't, I'm not 100% clear on that. I can't imagine what receipts would benefit him.
Thank you, Mab.
I can't think of anything that would be in writing that could help him.
By the way, you've been very vocal about this, even earlier on tonight. You made the point that you think prosecutors are ready and can file lesser charges. So not even a murder charge. There's court documents you and I talked about before where it looks like David is a suspect in the murder investigation. But you believe that there are people that could already be charged with lesser crimes and build the way up. Can you talk about that?
And we will right now. I want to thank Mr. Mab. Mab Investigates. Go over and subscribe to his channel. He's got to get those numbers up. Let's get him to, I don't know if you're over 2,000, Mab, but let's do it. Flojo TV, thank you. I used one of your clips earlier and I dropped your link in chat. Good to see you, my friend. Love your work on this case. All right.
Yeah, and to be clear, I don't think that they're about to do that. I'm frustrated that they're not at least starting there. If they don't have the murder case made yet, well,
Yep.
There's proof, and some of it, I obviously can't get into, but there's proof that he knew she was a minor. There's also proof that this was a habitual thing. I have photos, texts from another minor that David was in a relationship with at the exact same time.
Do you hear that? Another minor that David was in a relationship with at the same time. We're going to get into that next, though, okay? Because he not only had one favorite girl named Celeste and other Celeste fill-ins, but he was also diddling other small young girls. Now, I don't know at this point if he was into both. I know him and Neo are kind of a little too close of BFF, so maybe it was only the girls he was doing that to, but they all knew. Thank you, Flojo TV. I appreciate you. All right. The math ain't mathin'. All right, let's continue. We got a lot today. We're getting into that, what he just said next about the other young girls, minors, that he was also messing with at the same time. And guys, I assure you, they've all been called to the grand jury. All right, let's go.
And in fact, there's a third one. So this is an ongoing pattern of behavior, and law enforcement knows about it. They're aware of it, but it doesn't seem to be a priority. And I think these people need justice as well. I don't think it should just be a homicide or nothing type of deal, and this is a guy that's like a habitual offender, based on the evidence I've seen, which is real evidence of these people together, and a minor. So I think it's something they should be looking at, but I don't think they are.
Now, they really should charge him with that because it was not just Celeste. There were several young minors that he was doing that at the same time. And I think the grand jury would like to get to that point, where they charge him for more. And let's hope they do, because the evidence is all for us to see. Justice for Celeste. I say charge David and Neo. I agree, but they're going to use... Listen, David's never going to talk justice for Celeste. I don't think David's ever going to talk. He's not going to say a word other than through his lawyer. However, Neo's the closest person to him. We see Neo, David, and Celeste in several pictures together. And in other pictures, other children that look like they could be minors with a bunch of drugs around them. All right. I don't know. Celeste and David broke up in December, and for some reason, they're back together for New Year's Eve. So what really happened? Yeah, I mean, she was 14 when she passed, guys. She was 14. You don't think that she was jealous? She was in the video. We just saw that video where she literally said about him raping other girls. Or raping little girls. She said that. So she knew he was having relations with other young minors, and they were all surrounded. All right. All right, let's continue. We're going to get to the other kids that he was messing with as well.
And I know you're going to stay on top of this with what any updates you can provide. I know you're incredibly frustrated, as a lot of people are who've been following this. I will also say David hasn't been charged yet. He's innocent until proven guilty, and Neo Langston hasn't been charged at the time of this broadcast as well. So Steve Fisher, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, you guys know who Steve Fisher is. If you don't, you do now. And now we're going to talk about what the Steve Fisher posts, except I'm not going to read them to you because this is why we love Cat. How do you say this? Cat. I don't even know. I'm going to call her Katie Shalin, something. Just call her Katie. All right. She also did the SF investigate charges, and it's about the new allegations that could lead to charges. And guys, I keep telling you over and over that they need to charge him with underage, the minors that he's having sexual relations with, because we're looking at this Celeste case as a homicide, but not many people, including her parents, are saying, wait a minute, why was that little girl even with him here and at concerts and there and at his private cottage and in the room while they're lining up the drugs, right? I wouldn't doubt if she was doing it, guys. I'm sure she did it right along with all of them because she was 14 years old. I mean, 14-year-olds don't know better. All right, let's continue.
Bombshell news coming out about David from the PI, Steve Fisher. He just took to a social media and wrote this very long post. And in this post, Steve Fisher is claiming that he has proof that David was with multiple minors. He is claiming that there are two totally different girls other than Celeste that were with David, and one of them was happening around the time that Celeste was with him. So let's jump right into the statement. He says, I have been vocal about my belief that if there is not enough evidence to charge David with
Now listen, somebody should have protected Celeste, and you're right, Stars D. I'm sure she did them too. I feel so bad for her, but she shouldn't have had that decision to make. Her parents should have made that decision for her. You don't let a little girl just run around, but I guess you do when you're a piece of trash, in my opinion, parents that are willing to let somebody compensate you, aka selling your daughter. All right. Justice for Celeste says, I've heard the family told people not to look for her. And I'm sure they did. Do you know why? Because they knew every time she left, she was with David. Right? They didn't want this big manhunt where everybody's looking for her and the family's got to go on camera and admit that they know where she is. That's the reason she's being imprudent in the video. She was jealous. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Bot. She was jealous, or she wouldn't have said that. Ding, ding, ding. You're right. And I hope you guys heard that, because that was the first time I actually heard her say that, because it was edited out everywhere else. Do you guys want me to play it again after this? Let me know if you missed it.
unaliving of Celeste, they should start with lesser charges in the name of justice and then stack the unaliving charge on top once they make the case. In California, an adult who conceals a child or a runaway from their parents can be charged with child abduction. I do not believe that David could use the defense that he didn't know that she was a minor or a runaway. David and Celeste appeared in the Delete Everything video in January of 2024 before she first ran away. She was reported missing the first time on February 15th, 2024, and last seen on February 14th. Remember the teacher that told...
Right, guys. So this is the time frame. This is more of what... Because there's so many things that are happening in this time frame. Some people say she was being groomed at 11. Some people say 12. Some people say she actually made it to 15. So this is really good that we get to see the timeline again as it kind of evolves, so to speak. David and Celeste. Now this is SF Investigates, and he says that David and Celeste appeared in the Delete Everything video January of 2024. Now that Delete Everything
with the class that long...
that Delete Everything video was the video that I showed you guys at the beginning where she said graping little girls. Delete it all, right? January 2024. Then she went missing for the first time right around Valentine's Day, February 15th and February 14th, 2024. All right. And then next thing you know, 2025 is when her body was found at the end, right? All right, let's continue. This is not the full timeline. I could pull that up though.
Law enforcement had found her at a house in Hollywood Hills, and people knew who Celeste was hanging out with.
That's her in my classroom in front of this poster right here. Okay, hold up. I got another one because I got a picture on TMZ of this other kid exchanging stuff with the rapper who we alleged did this stuff. Hold on a second, because he's also in my classroom.
How long ago was
this? We all just found out yesterday who it was, but she's been missing since I taught her. So when I
see, that's the teacher talking about Celeste and Celeste missing. All right, Jay, have you seen the Valentine's Day video? Yes, I've covered a few of these episodes. I believe in one of the beginning of the episodes I did. But you can email me if you guiltyofcrimebyj@gmail.com. If it has music in it, I don't want to play it.
She met this dude on social media. He was a rapper in LA. He came and got her. She ran away from home. She was gone for like a month. The cops found her in Hollywood, brought her back to our school. She came back to our school, kind of told people this story. She disappeared again in May of that year, May of 2024. That's when her friends told me what happened, that it was this rapper, that they were like blackmailing him, all of this stuff. And then I found out yesterday that she's now dead in that rapper's car.
In October 2025, I requested the investigation file from LASD West Hollywood Sheriff Station regarding any witness and suspect interviews related to Celeste staying with David at the house in the 800 block of Doheny. In November, they sent me a letter confirming that these files did exist, referring me to the Riverside Sheriff Department, who opened the missing persons report, and LAPD, who were the investigation agencies. The fact that there is an investigation file means it's almost certain that law enforcement interviewed David and likely Celeste herself. Without a doubt, they would have informed David that Celeste was a child and a reported missing person. Once Celeste was back in his presence after that date, he is open to harboring a minor or abduction charges. I also have proof that he had an ongoing illegal relationship with another child at the exact same time this was going on with Celeste.
And guys, this happens all the time, but we don't hear about it all the time in Hollywood. Look at P. Diddy and what he did to all the little boys, little girls. This didn't come out for years. Now Diddy had been doing it for like 20 years and finally it caught up to him. This is fairly new. David's only 23, 24 years old, and he had been doing this for quite some time. He had been grooming Celeste that we know of online on maybe Twitch, maybe one of the platforms, and then going over to Discord. All right. It's crazy. This whole case is crazy. And the fact that he has more children involved, well, guess what, guys? Those children or minors are going to speak at the grand jury. We won't see them, but I bet you they're going to give statements.
This proof includes a statement from the minor and dozens of photos that include the minor and David. Yes, law enforcement is aware of this relationship. I'm also aware of a third minor. This is a pattern. And this part is crazy to hear Steve Fisher say that he has proof of this and so do the cops and they've never done anything. Because if you remember, this is something that we heard months ago.
You guys, that's not I don't know why, but I got to tell you, it's not a serious charge. For some odd reason, well, we had the grand jury already happened. They went to the when is the grand jury? He already testified. Is there multiple? I have to give you, let me look up when it was and what happened. Okay, I lost my train of thought. Innocent Neo and Asia are even older than David. So Asia, I believe, is on the list for the grand jury as well to testify. But a source told me the grand jury is currently stalled. That doesn't align with TMZ. I know. So that's what I don't know, is because from what I heard, the grand jury had already convened and they had everything that they mostly needed, but they needed to get Neo in there. They said there was a person that wasn't cooperating. So these grand jury, they're usually secret grand juries. They're not made for the public or any of that. Flojo should have a clip. Check the creep's other friend, Chase. He's a buddy of David. That guy thinks he's Dexter. and apparently testified. They all are. They're all going to flip on him. Yeah, they're waiting for the family to testify as well. They're making David too, David's mom and dad, and I would hope that they'd make Celeste's mom and dad. David said the guy was leaking music that he was lying about him. Huh?
Saw pictures being posted on the internet of David with this other young girl. And that girl in the pictures is who I'm assuming probably is the one that was around when Celeste was around. And there were also text messages being released by one of David's former friends, I believe that it was. And it was text messages between this girl and David. And then she did come out and claim that she started talking to David when he was 17. And Matt did a video on all of this, breaking this down when this happened. And it's probably the best one that I saw in this whole entire situation. So let's listen to it.
So I'm not sure if you guys have seen this comment right here on a video recently, but it says, I knew someone who dated David and was a minor at the time. And
all right, so look back at this 11/22/25, and I'm sure there's a lot more of this that got deleted, but somebody clipped it. Okay, this David could have dated 3 minors over the last 2.5 years, and I wouldn't doubt if there were more. Right, I really wouldn't doubt. Asia's turning on David as well. She's going back there and posting stuff on Reddit to distance herself. The friend Dave. Okay, let's continue. I don't want to get too distracted. I want to try to follow this. There's so many things that are in this case, but they're not actually in court filings. It's a lot of speculation, and these people posting stuff through social media, Reddit, etc. All right. So, I mean, that's not real proof until it makes it into court documents. And if it doesn't, then well, it's not proof.
They post this photo right here. Now, I ended up running this image on several different AI detection engines, and they all came back as not being AI generated. Now, obviously, these AI detection tools are not always 100% accurate, so take this with a grain of salt. Now, at the very beginning of this case, we got text messages from David that he had sent to another underage girl that he was talking to, and he was basically letting her know that he wanted to break things off because he was going to go on tour, she was still in school, and the long distance just wasn't going to work out for him. So many people were thinking that maybe this is her, but these messages were sent in 2023, and according to these photos, at least from what I'm seeing in the backgrounds, they had to have been taken in 2024 or 2025. So this right here is an image of the inside of the home that David was renting in the Hollywood Hills when Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body was found. As you can see, there are lights that are in the ceiling, circle lights, and then there's like a caved in part of the ceiling that I think is either a light or like a sun roof kind of thing. And you can see those lights and that kind of like increase in the ceiling in this photo right here. Also, if you look at the background of this specific photo right here and pay attention to some of the details, the photo.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. Unfortunately, law enforcement doesn't take pedos activity very seriously. Okay, I've seen a pedo get convicted all the way through for having multiple victims. Let's say we've got a teacher, right? Let's say it's an elementary teacher that did pedo things to 5 children. Well, said teacher gets sentenced for 5 children for less than 6 months a child for full on graping them. It's just not taken that seriously, unfortunately. And I don't know why. So even if they were to lock Neo up for having these 3 relationships with underage children, he might go to the jury. People might look at him and say, well, he looks kind of young. And those girls knew what they were doing. And it wasn't grape. Those girls were acting too old for their age. They just don't take it that serious. I watch it so many times. I watch so many of those pedo cases, and they're in and they're out, and I don't know why. David's probably out partying for St. Patrick's Day. I wouldn't doubt it. I just don't know why law enforcement is not tougher on those kind of crimes. I don't know.
Graphs on the wall, the dresser, the floorboard. You can see that it matches this photo right here and this photo right here. And David did not actually get access to this home until a lease was signed in February of 2024, which is conveniently enough around the same period of time when Celeste first ran away from home in February of 2024. So was David dating 2 minor girls in 2024? Or is it possible that he was dating Celeste in 2024 and started talking to this girl at the beginning of 2025? I mean, who really knows? It's hard to tell for sure because we don't have a timestamp for this photo. I'm going to be looking into it a little bit more, but I guess the moral of the story is that we know that David has a history of being into younger girls. He already was dating a minor from this text message right here, who he was breaking up with in 2023. When he was 18, she was 16. We know about Celeste. He's 20, she's 14. And now we have this mystery girl that he was dealing with within the last year. So this could be 3 children that he as an adult was attracted to. Very disturbing, very telling about who David is and what he's into. What do you guys think about all of this?
And guys, it was not it was hidden in plain sight, so to speak. That had we not found Celeste's body dismembered in the way that it was, we probably wouldn't even hear about this. They would continue on. Maybe there'd be some charges pressed, but they'd say, oh yeah, this is just another Hollywood thing. Let's move on. The only reason they're taking it as serious as they are is because, in my opinion, is because of the way her body was found, the things in the house that were related to it, and all of the people that were circling and gravitating around them knew what was going on, knew that Celeste was a minor, and they supported it. Why? Because I'm sure David was funding everything. Minor were turned away by cops, all because they're out of state, not living in exactly. And the only reason I know this is because I watched those kind of cases. I watch Mandu quite a bit, and I watch a lot of these pedo cases. They are not taken seriously at all whatsoever. And I also always say this world is literally ran by pedos. That means it gets excused a lot. And it does. Do you remember back in the 80s, there was a secret island, a PDF island, where the richest of the rich men bought an island. They called the island a reform for young boys. And what they were doing, instead of reforming young boys, they were flying boys out there that parents didn't want because they needed to be reformed. And they were graping them. And then we didn't have social media. So what they would do was they would take pamphlets, and these pamphlets would be printed, and they'd get slid into their mailbox, into their mail, disguised as something else, telling them about the island. Just like Epstein. Did you see his code word? His code words were, I'll take shrimp. I like my shrimp on the pink side. Shrimp equals young children, and on the pink side maybe means younger. I don't know, but that is what Epstein was saying. That was their code word. Texting, I like some shrimp. I like my shrimp to be more pink. You guys remember that though, right? You remember the island, and that still happens. What do you think about Epstein Island? The only reason that made a huge stink was because of the people involved with the power. And otherwise, I mean, how long had that been going on? How long did everyone turn their heads away that knew? All right. He meant little girls. I don't think they'd be taking it seriously at all. Well, I appreciate you saying that, because some people don't like SF Investigates. I do, because he does pressure every case that he's in. He's full force on it, and I love that. All right, let's continue.
Just let me know.
Their charges not being filed for this pattern of abuse against children is beyond logic to me. It's as if it's the unaliving or nothing. How about justice for all of his victims and stopping this from happening to someone else? Have to keep the pressure on, and it's time for more pressure. And he includes these posts where he was asking for these documents that he is talking about in this post. And he also included this picture that does have the Doheny address. And if this is the case, like Steve Fisher is saying, he has all this proof and cops already have it. That is absolutely crazy. The fact that he had never been charged for any of this yet is beyond scary. Steve Fisher is right. If they have this information and they know this to be true, why haven't they moved on this? And the fact that there's more than just Celeste, literally sick to my stomach, because just Celeste was bad enough.
Because I got to tell you, they don't care about that. I hate to tell you guys that. I hate to burst people's bubble that don't know, but they really don't care about this stuff. Every once in a while, you'll get a case that's really terrible, and you hear about like a mass group of people graping someone, but typically they don't do anything about that. They might not even be named in the indictment at all. The only reason that they're focusing now is because she was put into the trunk or the frunk of the Tesla, and it went back to David. All right. Undeniably moved another block from where his house was in his car. His name was all over everything while he was on tour. didn't even stop his tour for his favorite young girl, Celeste, to say, hey, can we take a moment of silence? I just found out a friend of mine that I used to do Twitch with passed away. Nope, he didn't say a word. He just kept going on tour. And the manager did too until they were forced to stop.
Especially knowing what happened to her and how she was found in that car. But now to know that there's others that were around him too, one at the same time. And mind you, we did not see this on the grand jury paperwork. And Steve Fisher is right. We heard the teacher come out and say this. There's pictures of David and Celeste. There was pictures of David around the corner from Celeste's home with those other children. I think this is huge. Steve Fisher is right. This needs to be amplified. This pressure needs to stay on this, because this part I really don't understand. We had Neo speaking out again on Saturday after he went on that rant on Friday, saying that David was a D-head and all of this stuff. He first posted this to his story that me and my lawyers were actually planning on making a statement soon, but obviously now is the best time since TMZ decided to leave out the actual full statement. I understand due to my silence and the silence in general, it leaves a void of information that everyone wants to fill. But at the end of the day, this case isn't about me. It isn't about you. It's about getting justice for the victim and her family.
And guys, her family is probably, and I hope they get brought into court, and I hope they at least get some shame. They get their 15 minutes of shame, because you're right, Master Death Hancock. Cops returned her home from David's house, and that's why they're not talking about the underage. It's their mess up and their blood on LAPD hands, because it didn't matter that much. And so did the parents. That's why the parents said, let's stop looking for her. Because guys, you can get in a lot of trouble as a parent if you let your young child go run around and keep flying around with this person and that and doing this and that. You can get indicted for that. And they knew where she was. She wasn't a runaway that we needed to put signs up of a missing girl and have the Cajun Navy come in and search efforts. Had that happened, the parents would have been in trouble for letting her go with David and go back and forth. And David might have been in trouble, especially because she was already probably passed. Wonder if the teacher's still at the school and how he felt after learning he was secretly recorded. He probably is happy that it got out there, I would think.
And I care a lot more about that than trying to fill that void because of public opinion. Obviously, I wasn't doing my part at first, but now I am. So this is a big deal to me. We have him acknowledging Celeste as a victim, and he is also confirming that at first he didn't do the right thing, and I assume that's why he was arrested. And then it seems like after he was arrested, he started cooperating. And this was my opinion after I saw him speak out Friday, and he even thought this might happen before this. I felt like there was probably some type of deal reached with Neo to give them information on David. Yep. For somebody that followed the Diddy case, you would know that happened during Diddy's criminal trial. They brought in old assistants who literally signed immunity agreements before they went and testified in case they said anything incriminating. And honestly, they didn't even say much back then. All they did is set up freak-offs, but they still did immunity agreements with them for their testimony, because the way they work, they really want to try to nail like that big fish. But anyways, he goes on to say, I've stayed loyal to my mindset and I will continue to. I'm not publicly going to give any opinion or emotion about this case because I find it.
And again, this was a post that only was supposed to go to close friends and family, and it's no longer there. So we're just getting different. Instead of me reading for 2 hours, right? I'm just using these that way I can talk to you and go back and forth. Shame on her mom and dad. Absolutely. You know what I hope? I hope that they look at the bank records of the mom and dad and realize that they were being paid for their daughter. All right. Compensation can usually buy anything, but not for me. I'm sure not for you, not for us decent people. We wouldn't sell our children for anything. All right. This could mess up one's head the deeper you go. I know. That's why I'm trying to keep it on track, because there's so many ways you can go with this case. So many ways you can go.
Disrespectful and not my place to weigh on it, especially as it's still ongoing. I'm not going to spam posts to justify and perform my feelings and thoughts for the internet, trying to satisfy people who already made their minds up about me. In the time, the record will speak for itself, and I'm moving on with my life. He also posted this one that seems like it was from his lawyer.
And we already went over this, so we're going to drop that. My whole thing today is I ask, when do you think David's going to be arrested? And I believe Neo absolutely flipped on David and is distancing himself, as well as Asia and everybody else in his inner circle that he thought was going to stick up for him and was, right? They were patting him on the back when they were there with him and doing the DRUGs and partying. Let's take a look real quick at this. Thank you, Kathy, by the way, for sending this to me. Here's the missing person poster that they had up in a bit of the timeline, just so you guys know. All right. Last seen 4/5/2024. This is one of her missing posters. At the time, she was age 13, Lake Elsinore, California, 5'3", 120 pounds. All right, look at this. So Celeste Rivas was a 13-year-old girl from Lake Elsinore, California, who went missing on April 5th, 2024. Described by family as bright and caring, she disappeared suddenly, leaving behind a devastated community. Her family shared that she had a small shh tattoo on her right index finger, a detail that later proved key in identifying her, because remember, she was dismembered and heavily decomposed, guys. Now, look, for more than a year, Celeste's loved ones searched for answers. I don't believe that. In September 2025, her case drew national attention when her remains were discovered inside the front trunk of the Tesla that had been impounded in Hollywood Hills. She was only, they say 15 years old at the time, but others say 14. So I don't know. You guys can correct it or not. Her death is being investigated by LAPD as a homicide. The case also urged questions about how she vanished, how she came in contact with the vehicle, etc. And then there's the timeline of Celeste Rivas, just an overall timeline. We're in 2026. We're going back to February of 2024. Now, a lease began for a home, they call it Contemporary Home in Hollywood Hills, owned by this person, I'm not going to even try, stated he had no idea that Burke was living there until he was informed by the manager. The lease was signed with Burke's manager, this David, Josh Marshall. The house rents for $13,999 per month, and it sits roughly 500 feet from Bluebird Avenue, where Burke's David Tesla was later abandoned. All right, so you see how David rented a house and they found the Tesla parked around the corner about 500 feet. All right, so February 2024, we assume Valentine's Day. They're all in love, making up to break up, whatever. Now, Celeste missing reports starting after February 2024. We start at right around Valentine's Day, the day after. Celeste is age 13, and she's reported missing. This is when the missing posters went up that I showed you. And then 4 days later, Celeste Rivas was found safe, guys, and returned to her home. So back in 2024, back in 2024 of, let's say, Valentine's Day, she was a runaway. And then they found her right after, 5 days or so after Valentine's Day, and they took her home. Now, police interviewed her on February 20th of 2024 at her home. And then 7 days later, David appears in recordings of his video at that rental home located at the address. All right. So we know he's there. And then you fast forward to middle of March, surveillance from the De Lago Spirits, a store in Celeste neighborhood, captured a young girl walking down the street in a dark sweater and light pants. Store owner Ellie provided videotapes to Celeste's family, believing the girl to be Celeste. He believed that she entered a vehicle down the street, though details were not clear in the footage. she regularly stopped by this corner on her way to the bus stop. Now, 7:57 a.m., right, on March, Celeste was reported missing again. Now you go to late March or at the end, and Celeste was found. And guys, she was returned to school again. No, again, this detail was referenced in a video statement from her teacher that we just watched. That was late March 2024, where the teacher talked about her missing and then returning back to school. Now, fast forward to April 5th, and Celeste Rivas at 9 p.m. 13 disappears from her home in Lake Elsinore. All right, 30 minutes later, Riverside Dispatch, she's a missing persons again. All right, April 24th, detectives go and they interview Celeste's family. A couple weeks later, her family files a report of suspicious circumstances related to her disappearance. May 24, 911 was called by Celeste's family as a possible assault. All right. Then 6 days later, Celeste Rivas was reportedly seen attending her cousin's high school graduation. So this girl's back and forth, guys. Police aren't even taking this serious anymore as much as she keeps disappearing. Now, June 1st, all the way back in 2024, we saw the video of Celeste Rivas with the family in Riverside County. A short video uploaded TikTok by one of her cousins shows her interacting with friends and family. Okay, so she's alive for the summer, June, July, and then August, end of August comes, and there's a 911 for juvenile battery assault. I don't know what happened with that, but we're just moving down the line. September 8th comes, and verified sighting TMZ footage from a Nest camera shows Celeste alive arguing with neighbors. We saw that. So we still know she's alive up until September 8th, 2024. Then David rents the home and has his tour dates. And I'm not going to get into all of this, but I just want you to realize what's happening here. There's a lot going on in here. David's performing. David's going to concert. David's doing this. David's doing that. He's at his rental house. I'm just looking for Celeste in here. I mean, he goes from place to place on his private jet. We don't even know exactly where he is, right? He takes pictures and posts them so we can kind of piece them together. So he's on his tour August 2025 all the way through, and then David in Cleveland August 25, August 26 he's in Cleveland, Ohio doing his thing, and the Tesla gets a parking citation right around the corner from his house. Okay, the Tesla registered to David, a professional known as David, sits parked for weeks. I thought they said 4 weeks, just for weeks in Hollywood Hills. Interview with the neighbors say, now, August 27, 2025, the Tesla is marked for 72-hour monitoring, and ultimately the Los Angeles Parking Department tows the car to Hollywood Tow. You guys know the rest, right? David's still on tour. We hear about a citation and a smell in the car and a body, and we don't know who it is or what. David continues the tour in September. Tesla's towed to Hollywood Tow in the midst of this. And then, let me see, after September 7th, plane issues caused David and his team to take a private plane, which it seems like he did often. September 8th, 2025, tow yard workers detect a strong odor. And then at 10:30, LAPD comes. They receive a call from the manager. And when they get there, I'm not going to read all this. Basically, the odor was foul, and in the front storage, they observed black cadaver bags that we now know were covered in insects and a strong odor of decay. Detectives partially unzipped the bag, and they observed a decomposed head, guys, and a torso. So her head and torso were already heavily decomposed. Now, the investors and criminalists from LAPD respond to process the body. Now, a second bag was discovered beneath the first cadaver bag, and upon opening the second bag, an additional dismembered body parts were discovered. The vehicle then traced back to David. Remains are transported to the ME, and LAPD announces a suspicious death investigation while David's on his Withered tour. right? Then you go September and you see all the different things that we've already covered. And now we're up until 2026, right? It would take forever for me to go through that. You guys are funny because I'm reading. All right, let's continue. I should have made Synth come up here and read. Did I miss something with you guys? All right, let's get to this. Let's talk about what's next. I hope I didn't lose too many of you guys. If you didn't know the timeline, it's very muddied up, all right?
Sheriff's Department, when speaking with me, concerns me to a certain extent, assuming this arrest is related to the Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. Targets are not typically called to testify in a case. At the state level, target letters are not always required, but issuing a subpoena to a target without providing notice is extremely risky. A defense attorney would likely argue that any testimony was coerced. Had Neo received a target letter, he almost certainly would have retained counsel and invoked his Fifth Amendment rights. That makes me think that he is viewed as a witness rather than someone currently at risk of being charged. Did one person act alone in concealing Celeste's body? If this was a homicide, did a single individual act alone without a conspirator? I find that unlikely. This leads me to believe that Neo may represent a last-ditch effort by prosecutors, a Hail Mary of sorts, because they do not yet have what they need to fully make the case. They may be attempting to pressure him into cooperating, potentially by offering immunity. Is Neo the last hope? So, Steve, just to break that down for a second, I hear exactly what you're saying. In other words, there's a possibility here that Neo may be involved in what happened.
Oh, guys, I'm sure that he was involved with what happened, whether it was just, oh, man, I'm freaking out. He knew when Celeste was there. He knew when she disappeared. He knew that car was around the corner. I think he knew everything that that David knew. But I got to tell you guys, I don't think that he helped cut up the body or do any of that. I got to tell you, I think that was a fascination that David had about death and incinerator and chopping things up, because all of his other social media and little cartoon videos were all graphic and gory. Okay, so Celeste last liked David's social media in July 2025. All right, let's continue. This guy's a smug prick, just saying.
Celeste, and bringing him in strictly as a witness as opposed to somebody that the grand jury can issue an indictment against, I could hear your concern. Something I mentioned on my show, and I'll mention with you again, is there is always the possibility that, assuming for a moment that Neo and David are connected to this, he could be testifying against David, he could be testifying against David and another individual or another individual. There could be people, Neo might just have knowledge of something and not actually be a part of.
Oh, he has knowledge, and having knowledge is being part of something, guys. Yeah, David has been fantasizing about this for years. All you have to do is just watch how he moves. Look at his social media, and it's very abundant. It's very clear what he's doing, and it's in plain sight. We just saw that. We saw Flojo TV's clip that tells you exactly what's going on, but everybody seemed to ignore it. There's this guy again.
Whatever happened to Celeste, right? That's still a possibility.
Absolutely, it is. But there is more. I think I'm looking at this whole situation a little bit broader than just the homicide. I understand the homicide is what we're looking for, but Celeste was trafficked.
And guys, I gotta tell you, I gotta give this man kudos, because he's right. Celeste was trafficked. Celeste was absolutely trafficked, guys. She was passed around. I'm sure she did anything that they wanted her to do is what she did. And yeah, guilty by association. But when you go to a grand jury and you flip on that association, you're probably not going to get charged for the guilt of association. They'd rather have somebody say, hey, I knew what was going on. I knew they had been friends. He's going to dull down his part. But I can tell you everything I know about, right? Like, he can actually fill in the gaps, fill in the timeline, fill in how many other kids David was, etc., etc. Now, remember, I also feel like Neo the Asian and David were some type of bisexual lovers. They had some kind of thing going on. And I believe that there was also jealousy on Neo's part as well. Jealousy turns into rage, and then what else? He gets arrested and extradited to Los Angeles. You bet he did talk. You bet he talked. He was there 40 minutes. I'll bet my car keys he talked and told them everything he knew about this situation. Now let's get back to Celeste being trafficked. Why isn't that serious enough?
And listen, there's messages back and forth. They knew her age. And so it's not just that. Listen, there's sex crimes against this girl. And there's certain people that knew what was going on. There's certain people that gave rides to her back and forth, even to Lake Elsinore. And so it's not just the homicide for me. I just think that this is one of these things where we got to start standing up for these young girls that are just taken advantage of by these predators. And I hope it's not a situation where it's like, we can't make the homicide. We just can't get there with it and let it go, because there is other crimes, whether it's concealment of the body, whether it's anybody that helped in facilitating her to stay with David. And so it's not just
those aren't serious charges, but for younger kids, for Neo, remember, these guys are all like 22, 23, 24. They're very, very young. And to them, that's a serious charge. And easily they will flip on a dime, right? They're not getting money from Neo. They're not getting money from David anymore. And they were there to see young girls being taken advantage. They're going to talk. All right. I'm just wondering when the indictment's going to come and David's going to be arrested. I agree with Mr. F and you, Jay. Maybe she wanted out. And there was another reason. That's Maggie. Absolutely. She was breaking up with him. They broke up. They break up to make up as well. But I honestly think that was part of it. There's a jealous love triangle. But I also believe. All right. So you say, I also believe that. Now I just totally lost my train of thought because you say she wasn't trafficked. Celeste knew what was going on, but she was also breaking up. She was jealous. I think there was some kind of love triangle. Now, Cece says Celeste wasn't trafficked. She was street smart. He was weird and homeschooled. He was obsessed with her. She got mute because of David's intense jealousy. Okay, but Cece, I'm going to have to go back to what Steve Fisher's saying, and I appreciate your message. However, when a child is sold, all right, when someone gives money in exchange, like David was providing to the family, street smart or not, she was only 14 years old, 11 and 12 when she was being groomed. Now, everything else I agree with you about, but I absolutely think there should be a trafficking charge for Celeste. She was moved state to state. She would fly with him and go all over, which also brings in a trafficking situation. So I understand her beautiful and mature beyond her years, but it is our job as parents to take care of our children. And it doesn't matter if someone offers us money to let her go with them and do whatever. That's called trafficking in a sense of a charge, a legal charge. But yes, I agree. Cece, I agree with you on most of it. All right, let's continue. It needs to be charged as trafficking, because when you start going state to state with a minor and money's involved and other stuff, is trafficking by definition of the law.
Homicide. It's just everything that happens to Celeste. It's the whole breakdown.
So it is interesting for Neo to post this and think about what he may be testified to and what his alleged role is in all of this and why the government seemingly needs him as that kind of connective tissue, right, to get to David. I mean, that seems to be the argument here. And this is especially important considering the biggest update we had in this case on our previous sidebar. How could we forget this? That there was official court paperwork that was filed seemingly confirming there is an active criminal investigation case against David for murder. Remember, actually, it was Steve who was the one who posted this information, and then we got our hands on the court paperwork. But Steve posted, in a petition for attendance to compel David's family members to appear before a grand jury, it's disclosed that Celeste Rivas Hernandez head and torso were found in a cadaver bag, her severed arms and legs.
I absolutely believe there was some kind of jealous love triangle thing. Celeste, remember, kept breaking up with him and getting back with him. She'd go home and then she'd go missing again, right? Sad, but even Diddy got off with prostitution, right? Exactly. They just don't take it that seriously. Celeste was having relations with another adult gangbanger before David. I'm sure all of her friends got down like that. And I agree, Cece. I agree that her friends probably did. The family members lived in this little apartment community and they wanted the fame. She wanted, the girls, the kids want the fame. The parents need the money, right? So regardless if she was already banging other older people, that was not right. She should have been protected. That's horrible to even think of that. I want to walk backwards at it. Yeah, we couldn't see. It was black, man. I'm teasing you.
In a second bag, David Burke is the target of the grand jury for one count of murder. And when you read from the screenshots, and again, we have the filings from this, it said the people of state of California v. David Burke, Nathan Hochman at the top. He's the Los Angeles County District Attorney. Beth Silverman, too, who we believe is the attorney prosecuting this case. So confirming, again, this is a real case. They're the prosecutors. There was even video or pictures of her coming in and out of court. It goes on to say that there is now pending in the Superior Court of the County of Los Angeles the above entitled grand jury investigation by the state of California against target David Burke. David, that's his real name, David, wherein target may be involved in having committed the following criminal offenses against the laws of the state of California to wit.
Yeah, as of right now, he is the only target. I want you to know that. He is, according to everybody, he's only target and everybody else will be witnesses. Mr. Bott says Neo and David has suspicious romantic Yeah, I've had a, and they also talk about bisexuality. I mean, it's no big deal. Who cares? But I absolutely think some jealousy was going on between the 2, the 3, the 4, the other, all of it. Midnight Lace, thank you so much for the Guilty of Crime membership. If you received a membership from Midnight Lace, please thank her. All right. She asked David for 10 bands when she was 11. Just like that. He sent 9. See? And I don't know any of that because I don't have access to those people. I don't go in deep Reddit rabbit holes. And when I do, I let it go. I thank you for saying that. She asked David for 10 grand when she was 11. And just like that, he sent 9. And allegedly, Cece, the parents were receiving money as well. All right. It is very hard to keep our little girls safe, but I will be connected with a leash if I have to. You gonna run away? I'm gonna run away with you. All right. And then you better not run into me, you and you pedos, because you know what happens next, right? That means 10,000. 10 bands means 10,000. 10 grand. A band is a grand. She wanted 10 grand and he like nothing when she was 11. That's called grooming. Congrats. More Guilty of Crime family. Thank you guys for being here, by the way.
One count of murder. And when I looked up the penal code that was allegedly broken here, murder is the unlawful killing of a human being or a fetus with malice aforethought, basically an intentional killing. The filing goes on to say on September 8th, 2025, at approximately 10:30 hours, Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD detectives received a phone call from the manager of Hollywood Area Official Police Garage. The manager stated a black Tesla Model X had been impounded as an abandoned vehicle by the Department of Transportation on September 5th, 2025.
Now, I'm telling you right now, folks, if my car, I drive a Kia. Everyone already knows. Doesn't matter. I drive a hamster car, right? I drive the Kia Soul. And I assure you, if I had cadaver bags in my car with body parts and I went and parked around the corner and my car got towed, I assure you I would be arrested like yesterday. All right. This whole thing it's not being taken, the trafficking and the other stuff going behind the scenes with the young children. It's not being taken as serious as it should, but they want that capital M charge because I believe the heavy decomp, knowing that the body was hanging around for a while, knowing that David had people in his circle that knew or more than likely knew about her being underage, and the fact that she finally disappeared forever. All right. And they're gonna talk.
The manager told police there was a strong smell of decay coming from the vehicle, which was attracting flies. LAPD detectives responded to the Hollywood tow yard to investigate. Detectives approached the vehicle, which was parked on the upper deck of the impound lot, and immediately noticed the smell of decaying biological material consistent with a decomposing corpse coming from the front storage compartment of the vehicle. Detectives obtained a search warrant for the vehicle, and when the front storage compartment was opened, detectives observed a black cadaver bag covered with insects and a strong odor of decay. Utilizing black latex gloves, detectives partially unzipped the bag and observed a decomposed head and torso. Investigators and criminalists from the Los Angeles...
I mean, guys, this is something that, in my opinion, he got off on. So that's why I really, truly don't think that Neo had a hand in that. I think that was David's big fantasy. And after whatever happened with him and Celeste, he lived his fantasy out. He decapitated her. It wasn't like they were clean, right? It's not like a clean wound where you know what you're doing. Her body, guys, was ripped to shreds. Now, if you go back to my episode that I did like 3 weeks ago on the David case, you'll see what I mean by that. She wasn't dismembered in a way that usually typically happens. It was almost like her arm and her head and things were just ripped off and bad, guys. It's always bad, but bad. All right. She's not a runaway. I know she's not a runaway. That's why ultimately the family kept saying that. They kept saying, well, don't look for her. Whoever did that didn't just dismember. It's like they enjoyed ripping her apart and the blood and the guts and the things. Like, it's like his fantasy.
Angeles County Department of Medical Examiner responded to the tow yard to process the decomposed body. Upon removing the cadaver bag from the front storage compartment, it was discovered the arms and legs had been severed from the body. A second black bag was discovered underneath the cadaver bag. Upon opening the second bag, the dismembered body parts were discovered. Detectives were advised that on August 26, 2025, a citizen reported the above-mentioned Tesla as an abandoned vehicle parked across from...
All right, we already looked at this. I just wanted to get into some of the new stuff. Okay, now, Marbear, if he was only arrested on trafficking, I know it's not only. To me, trafficking's a big deal, but then you look at Diddy, that was the trial of the century, and this fool got 4.5 years. All the victims, all the hurt, all the pain, all the boys that he raped, all the children in Hollywood that he did stuff to, and he walks away with 4.5 years. Now I'm talking about P. Diddy. So yes, if David were only being arrested for trafficking, which it's not only to me, he would probably be out in a year or two, probably not even. But because of the magnitude of this crime and the way that her body was dismembered, it's going to be a lot worse. Let me tell you that right now. It's not going to be a day or a year. All right, let's continue.
Neo and Asia live with themselves. 6 months, no charges, no press conference. But LAPD and the district attorney's office did issue a press release stating they had the medical examiner's autopsy and investigative findings sealed so detectives could review them first, claiming it was not meant to undermine transparency. They got that information, yet the records remained sealed. That press release misled the public. That press release was a lie. Another press release suggested the only potential criminal culpability might be concealment of a body. He's referring to earlier statements.
That was, by the way, when this case first started, they were only talking about charging David with concealment of the body because they had no evidence of what in the hell even happened to Celeste, right? That would be nothing. That's a nothing burger right there. He'd get like a day. He'd get nothing. He'd get some fines. But the fact that her arms and legs were sawed off, guys, all right? We didn't know about that at first.
By the LAPD. They said that knowing Celeste's arms and legs had been sawed off, you came out with that press release knowing what had been done to her? If they do not have enough evidence to charge those responsible, then they need to say that plainly. Admit that after nearly 6 months, the investigation has not produced sufficient evidence to charge David Anthony Burke or anyone else who participated or was an accessory. Admit it's a blown investigation. Admit that important evidence was left behind after the search warrant. Admit that critical surveillance was lost because nobody followed up to obtain it. Celeste's head and torso were placed in one cadaver bag. Her arms and legs were placed in another. Someone purchased cadaver bag, cut her apart, placed her remains inside those bags, put her in the trunk of a Tesla.
Now remember, they had those cadaver bags at that rental place that David was renting for $14,000, or his manager was renting for $14,000 a month. Celeste said she had family in the Mexican cartel. She might have threatened him when she got mad. I don't think he was able to play her like an average. I agree. Cece, I 110% agree with you. And I think it absolutely scared him and it pissed him off with this stream. I'm going to pull this down again just for those of you that didn't see it real quick. Let's just watch it one more time so you can see what she did to him. She did this to him on a live stream. She's the one that said this. All right, let's listen one more time to this. This was Celeste. This is Celeste Rivas. At the time, guys, she was 13 years old. They were on Twitch and they were streaming live.
I personally don't.
Yo, I media trained you.
No, you didn't.
That's controversial.
It's controversial of raping kids.
Okay, so then he goes on to say, delete, delete, delete. Okay. She did that to him right on a live stream, and people in chat are like, he needs to be added to the Epstein files. They're going crazy, right? This still obviously didn't get deleted in the way that it should. So then you fast forward, he's having a good old time with her while she's saying that on a live. And then this is where she ends up.
And went on with their lives. They purchased cadaver bags. They went to the extent of purchasing cadaver bags. And still, 6 months later, there were no charges, no accountability, silence, sealed records. Threaten me with contempt all you want. I will proudly take that contempt charge in the pursuit of justice for Celeste Rivas Hernandez.
Now, can I tell you something too, Marbear? You say, I think Steve has knowledge that they dropped the ball, which is probably why Neo's acting so cocky. He probably heard all the evidence they have and is laughing it up. Steve Fisher also knows who the person was that drove that car that the body was ultimately found in around the corner to the house. Okay, now he can't name it because he can't let that information out. Just because he knows as much as law enforcement does, he can get in a big world of trouble and mess up the case. I'm wondering what you guys think. Who do you think drove that car that dropped off that car and just walked away from it and left it there? Let me know what you guys think. Who do you think it was? Do you think it was Neo? Do you think it was David? Do you think it was the manager?
6 months is enough. Do your sworn duty or admit the case was failed. We need to let the LAPD and the DA's office know we are mad and this is not acceptable. And I wish her family would do the same. Here is the full 151-page court filing for anyone willing to read it. David Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Now, that seemed to be in reference to, he had said this previously, that it seemed the DA's office was going to come after him for speaking publicly about the case, considering he may have testified in front of the grand jury. But to give you an idea, by the way, another idea of Neo and his supposed connection to all of this, last month, Steve Fisher posted this too. 4 photos, okay, including 1 or 2 that appear to be of Neo. And it says, on December 31st, 2024, at around 10 p.m., several people were at David's house. Although Celeste Rivas...
And I showed you this last time, surrounded by the D rugs. Oh my goodness. I'm also looking at this Celeste Rivas case timeline behind the scenes, guys. And the county medical, LAP, or Los Angeles County Medical, has got Celeste Rivas' place of death as a vehicle in the vehicle. And they've got the investigators on there. And they also got the medical examiner's paperwork where they talk about her death, and that they say a female about 15 came to her death on September 8th. They've got medical examiner information, and there needs to be more determined. They even got her birth certificate, and I did not realize that she was Salvadorian American is what it says. That was her. Hispanic is her ethnicity, but specifically Salvadorian American. All right. And her date of birth was 9/7/2010. So yeah, that was the certificate of death. They do say she was 15, but okay, let's continue. It's crazy that they have all that information out there.
Hernandez is not clearly visible in any of the photos from that evening. We believe she was present. The iPhone she had previously been pictured with appears to match the phone and case seen on the table, along with a Hello Kitty mug. Another photo, which appears to have been taken by David, shows what are likely Celeste's fingers on a bottle. The phone that is likely Celeste appears to be on the Wi-Fi settings screen and connected to the Wi-Fi network. Even though iPhones use a private Wi-Fi address feature, the address remains fixed for a specific network, meaning it stays the same each time that device reconnects to that router. Hopefully, law enforcement investigators have reviewed the router logs to determine exactly when Celeste's phone and everyone else's phones were connected to the home's Wi-Fi network and compared that information against the statements each person provided about when they were at the house and who else was there, including Celeste. For example, if individuals in the photos, including these photos and many others, claim they did not see Celeste or were not at the house, yet the...
This is brilliant. I'm so glad for technology these days. Now they have all of these people's records, their cell phone connected to the IP at the time with the pictures. That means all of these people, because you know those 20-year-olds, 22, 23, those are not ride or die. They're not going to ride or die for David. When the money stopped and the charges came, they're going to testify against him. All right, likely is not proof David knows this. All right, let's continue. I didn't think we'd even be on this long today.
Router logs show their phone was connected to the Wi-Fi. That would raise serious questions. We cannot forget about Celeste or the justice she deserves. It has now been more than 5 months and no charges have been filed. The last photo of Celeste is not from that night. It's from another time and meant to show her phone to compare with the phone on the table. Now, again, I'm doing all of this to put into context Neo's latest statement, okay? And with that in mind, I just want to show you one more thing. I also had a chance to speak previously with former prosecutor, LA attorney Nima Rahmani, who knows this court system well.
And right after this, guys, we got a little bit more about how this case has taken a turn and what's going to happen next, what we should watch out for. All right. Yeah, technology can catch all of them. Remember what Robert said? He just wanted to get on with the tour. Money is all they cared about. Yeah, Robert's the manager, and yeah, he might have just drove that car. And now he can say, I didn't know it was in there. You know, he can say that if he wants. Whoever was driving that car can say that, unless they have evidence of them putting the bags in the trunk.
Talk to him about what Neo maybe testified to in front of the grand jury. And he believes that he did testify in front of the grand jury. Here's what Nima had to say.
In LA and at the district attorney's office here, they rarely proceed by grand jury. So grand juries are used in the federal system. They're used in most states back east. Here in LA, they almost always proceed by a complaint and a preliminary hearing. So the fact that we have a grand jury in this case is unusual. Now, obviously, Celeste has been presumed and found dead since at least September. And obviously, she was missing for many, many months before that. So the question is, why is the DA's office using a grand jury in this case and not just charging David or other co-conspirators? And they're using the grand jury for an investigative function. And that investigative function is to lock down witnesses like Langston. They're going to plead, they're going to plead. But ideally, in a case like this, where you have an individual who's the target of your investigation, David, and he's surrounded by an entourage, and
that's exactly the word that was used, is entourage. All of those people are surrounding him because he's famous and he has money. Entourages disappear. When the shit hits the fan, no more money's coming and charges are flying, they're gone. Jay, thank you, Deb. You're the bomb. The way you cover these cases without completely making it all about what you think. You allow other opinions and truly think it through. Absolutely. Everybody's opinion is valid, and I love to agree to disagree. That's my favorite thing to do, because then we'll get into a conversation, a good conversation. When we agree to disagree, we start getting passionate. I didn't think this would be long either. I didn't either, but we still have more.
Members of that entourage probably don't want to cooperate or rat or snitch, whatever you want to call it. The DA, Silverman's trying to use this grand jury to lock in their testimony. So when they go to trial, they can't go sideways.
Basically, if they take the stand, this is not what you said in front of the grand jury. You told the grand jury X, Y, and Z. Way to, hold them to their feet to the fire. If he really testified only for 30 to 40 minutes, okay, does that make sense for a grand jury witness?
No, usually in a murder case, you're going to expect much more testimony than that. And obviously, look, we know the grand jury can move quickly. There's no defense attorney.
Now, the good thing about a case like this is that younger people will tend to talk more. If you were to commit a crime in high school, somewhere in that proximity, one person knows, everybody's talking, guys. All right. They're easy to get. Law enforcement knows how to work them, knows how to scare them, knows how to get them to talk. And you're right. And probably at least 4 other people. I mean, Asia had to have known what was going on. Neo had to have. When you look at their inner circle and the pictures where Celeste is clearly hiding, they knew what was going on. And at that time, the crime was actually her being underage or trafficking.
So there's really no objections, and things tend to move much faster because there's no ruling on those objections. There's no cross-examination. But obviously, if he's going to be a key witness in a murder case, you would expect more than 30 to 40 minutes of testimony.
Explain what you mean by that. So invoke his Fifth Amendment right.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be a key point to the testimony, but he's certainly right in the dab smack middle of it.
Against self-incrimination. And why would he do that, and what would that look like?
So if you were to invoke before the grand jury, that would probably be a much faster series of questions and answers. Obviously, he would give his name, some identifying information, but anything related to the disappearance of Celeste Rivas would be met with, I assert my Fifth Amendment privilege. And after that assertion several times, that testimony is going to be over, absent some immunity, which we can talk about. I don't necessarily think that they would have given him an immunity, because if they did, again, I would expect the testimony to be much, much longer. So I don't know if it wasn't cooperative. I don't know if we went.
Yeah, but they don't need to give immunity that particular day. So will he get immunity? We don't know. What's he going to say? We don't know. Bottom line is he's been there. They arrested him. He went to the grand jury. He did what he was supposed to do, and then he wasn't going to say anything. And now he's distancing himself from David. What's up, Smokin'? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Her own brother said dead 2 weeks right after being found in text. Yeah, she was. So you guys think it was 2 weeks earlier, or do you think that she passed, or her life was taken from her weeks before or months before, and then stored and put in there? I'm curious what you guys think, because the whole her keep disappearing and then reappearing, and she's not really missing in that case. All right.
Through him invoking, frankly, I don't know if he's represented, if he was arrested and didn't surrender. So there's a lot of unknown questions, but typically, like you said, you'd expect to hear more testimony than that, or something shorter if he was just going to invoke.
I want to peel that back a little bit for a second. So first of all, if he did that and he invoked his fifth, can the grand jury use that against anybody they may be looking at charges for? Is that something they're allowed to consider?
Legally, no. If someone asserts their Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination, their right to remain silent can't be used against them, can't be used against anyone else. It's a constitutional right. Now, practically speaking, do grand jurors and trial jurors implicitly say, hey, well, this person invoked, they must be guilty? Maybe, but certainly the law is that they're not supposed to do that.
All right, bottom line in this, I don't think that happened at all. He was there for at least 40 minutes. They made a big deal to arrest him and extradite him back to Los Angeles. And now he's publicly distancing himself, saying, I don't want my name next to that asshole, whatever, dickhead's name. All right. So something more went down. He's going to turn for sure. They would not have arrested that kid, Neo, and extradited him all the way back to Los Angeles to get his testimony for nothing. It would have been a moot point. They would have been like, nah, good to see you and everyone. Crazy case for sure. All right. So again, I believe he's absolutely going to flip on him. Does he even need immunity? Was he there? I don't know. We don't know. But he certainly is distancing himself from David, and he knows a lot more. All right, we got like about 8 more minutes of this, and this is going to tell you what's happening now and what's next. We're going to watch out for the indictment. That's what's going to happen on my channel, is we're waiting for that indictment to come down on David, and then we'll report again.
That you saw your ex-friend Neo put up that have got to make you a little nervous. Because,
more than a little.
Right, because it started late Friday when Neo, remember, Neo is the guy that got arrested in Montana last month because police brought him back here.
Yeah, they wouldn't have arrested him from Montana and extradited if they didn't want to get a statement from him. And I absolutely believe with his public statement that wasn't supposed to be public and his distancing that he absolutely told law enforcement what they wanted to hear. He also, he doesn't have permission to release the identity of the driver. Not only that, he could get in major trouble there with law enforcement. He can wreck the case by releasing the identity of the driver. He does say he knows it, though. All right. Cops said it was not frozen. No way. It was a heat wave for 2 weeks, 80 days. Yeah, but there's conflicting statements there as well. So we'll have to see. It doesn't mean it was frozen, but it probably was kept in a cool spot. Remember, they had that stupid Dippin' Dot freezer. The law enforcement said, why do you guys have this freezer in here? And like, oh, we love Dippin' Dots.
To go before the grand jury. So we clearly believe that he has information about Celeste's death.
We should say that Neo and David were very close, that he was at David's house all the time. We know from our law enforcement sources, and we told you about this, that they are really interested in the mysterious trip that David took in the middle of the night to a remote area of Santa Barbara last spring. And they think it has to do with Celeste's disappearance/death.
And that's why they're not going to name him, because first of all, it could wreck the case. Second of all, whoever moved that car and walked away from it can say, I had no idea that she was there. Even though they're lying, we have no way to know that they're not. So you don't want to wreck that. And then all of a sudden, that driver that had nothing to do with it, all of us web sleuths are going to their house and attacking them. So that's not going to come out. That's just simply not going to come out. It could have been previously frozen. That's what I think happened. I think it was previously, if her life was taken in January, or would you say January 25? Let me see. And then I can't remember the date she was found because there's so many dates. I have it right here. Was it September 8th or something like that? So February, March, April, May, June. Wait, you think that was that long? They had to have done something to keep her body from just, I don't see how that's possible that they didn't.
There were rumblings we got from law enforcement that they believed that Neo was in the car. He makes it very clear in these posts that he has nothing to do with this, with her death.
So this is where the worm starts to turn, where Neo backs up the bus, starts to back it up over David, saying, I've told so many people that I trust and I thought knew me as a person, my side of things, all for that to be thrown out the bleeping window as soon as I get arrested and they slap that blankhead's name next to mine.
And that
totally distancing himself, not on purpose, of course. So 9 months, you guys, you gonna tell me, of all people, that body was just hanging around for roughly 9 months and it wasn't kept either chilled or frozen to an extent and then put into that car it was hot that week. It's a black car. They're there for a couple of weeks. He was on tour. There's no way. I don't believe it. I do not believe that her body was just laying around for that many months without being kept somewhere cool. Where? I don't know. All right. I don't know. That's a long time.
That's David he's
referring
talking
to David.
about.
Yes.
So clearly he's turned. I will tell you this. I think from information I have that David was blindsided by this, that I don't think they knew that Neo had turned as of Friday afternoon, but they know now. And by the way, what Neo posted was not public. It was part of his private story.
Right. Only
on Instagram.
Very close friends could see it. So
we got hold of it.
Right.
And so that's very clear. Now, there's another thing that happened over the weekend with Neo, and we're going to get into this with Mark Garagos in a minute. But Neo posted.
And it's not very long. We got about another 7 minutes. I know you guys love long live streams. I don't know how I was doing those 1.5 hour episodes before. I cannot seem to get my episodes to an hour and a half anymore. It's like there's so much information coming. I don't know what to present that's more important. It's all important. Yeah, Santa Barbara is the key. I agree. It's a big key.
Did something where he was saying, I'm done talking about this publicly. The key is here. He said that he wants to.
At the end of the day, this case isn't about me. It isn't about you, the fans. It's about getting justice for the victim and her family.
So him saying those words just gives us an idea of what he heard at the grand jury hearing, the questions that they asked him. You can't call her a victim and say you're getting justice for a victim if, again, they were to use that story that she OD'd or something like that. All right? You couldn't do that. So he needs to not make statements like this, but I think he's making a statement like this to let people know that he's not about that life. He didn't dismember, didn't touch her, didn't hurt her. David did. Right? The target that they have is correct. That's how I see what he's doing.
That word victim is something everybody overlooks.
Celeste as a victim.
So here's why it's so important. The medical examiner, we know, has had enormous trouble establishing cause of death because the body was so decomposed and just in terrible shape when it was found in the back of David's Tesla in early September. And so they had trouble. We don't know if they've ever been able to establish cause of death. But there are options here. Could have been a drug overdose. It could be murder. But if it's a drug overdose.
Now, I thought they were going to say that. I totally thought this is what they're going to do. You're going to see those pictures. But that's a heavy charge if that were to happen. And all of a sudden, they not even cut her up. She was ripped apart like animals. All right, her body was not only ripped apart like an animal did it, but it was kept for months and months and months and then put out in the car while he was on tour. Those are some heavy charges. All right, they cut her up and fit her in the freezer. Remember the live where David tells Sakura? Yes, I did. I showed that on my last episode. He says to excuse the smell. Yep. Damn it. So he had held on to her body for quite some time, and she was tore apart like a freaking animal.
Overdose. You wouldn't refer to the person who died as the victim. It doesn't. It's not really a victim. It's not.
You could, but I get your point about.
If you do it to yourself, it's not. You're not necessarily a victim. Victim to me is homicide.
Yeah.
And this could be really important if the case goes to trial. So let's bring in my co-host, the Two Angry Men, Mark Garagos. Mark.
All right, after this, we'll be done. It's important what he says. No, yes, Donna Clark, she was torn apart. When I originally heard about her manner of death and being dismembered, they finally came out and told us what was dismembered and how it was dismembered. And they told us in the first bag was her head and torso, and it's ripped apart. Like the person that did it doesn't have experience in dismembering, and her legs and her arms in the bags, there was no like straight cuts. It was like someone just hacked her apart. Like they enjoyed ripping her apart and hacking her and all the stuff that comes with it, the nerves and the stuff that it was ripped apart like an animal does. Yes. Absolutely. And I absolutely think David did that himself. He look at his stuff. He fantasizes about blood and death. And yeah, I absolutely think David did it. Not because he needed to, because they could have just got rid of her body. They could have froze it and freaking flew it to somewhere and got rid of it. No, because that was his possession. He kept that possession as long as he could until he had to go on tour. All right. That's my opinion though. Let's continue. This is a really good, what Mark Garagos says.
What about that word victim? To me, this is really important.
I don't disagree with you. Charles is right, as usual, that you could make an argument that does not necessarily mean that it's criminal. But I will tell you what I think has happened here, and I've got pretty good transparency on this. What happened is when Neo refers to, he's been telling everybody what was happening. That is true. He told third parties who then got to Beth Silverman, who is the DA in this case. Beth is in major crimes. Beth is not, contrary to all the people who were saying this was an investigative grand jury. I call BS on that. This was a criminal grand jury from the get-go. And by the way, that's to your point, Harvey, about the medical examiner. It's unprecedented, but they went not once, not twice, but 3 times to a judge to get an order to basically shut down the medical examiner because the medical examiner was not on board with where they were heading. When NAO started talking to a third party, that third party got to Beth. That is when Beth turned up the heat. That is when Lauren Conlon, frankly, discovered, or at least showed me, the filings that had been done in Texas where they did not seal some of that. And that's where it was revealed that David was a target, where it was revealed that they were looking for people to roll on him. And when I say roll on him, that's exactly what NEO has done.
Oh,
there you go. I agree with this, man. This guy's crazy. Mark Garagos, you guys know who that is. Anyhow, I absolutely believe it was a necessity for them to get NEO into that courtroom and testify before the grand jury. I assure you, he did not invoke the fifth, or he wouldn't be talking the way that he is. All right. All right, let's continue. I think I'm not talking about, I'll let you guys have conversations behind the
NEO is not, he is now focused on David, and he's telling the story as he knows it, and this is David's worst nightmare.
Mark, I agree with you that there's no other way to look at this other than NEO is distancing himself and making David sound like David knows something about how Celeste died. If he's not involved, at least knows. But if he has all this information, he says he's got all these receipts, why does it at least appear that he didn't have a lot to say to the grand jury when he got called in? Because he was in there for, what was it,
40 minutes.
40 minutes? Doesn't seem like that was the grilling.
But he also has a lawyer, and I wonder if the lawyer prevented him from saying certain things about it, and that's why he wasn't in there for as long as he is. But he's letting us know, hey, I got the receipts, man. I wasn't there. I didn't do that, but I can tell you what I know. All right. Yeah, that was the name of the canceled tour was Withered. Now, Mr. Bott, if anybody watching this show doesn't know about David, you guys should take a moment to go back either to my playlist or anywhere and look up David, because what I got to tell you is he's surrounded by death and blood, and like his fascination is beyond what normal people are. And it'd be fine if that was his fascination. If you look at my stuff, I got a bunch of horror doll characters. Does that mean I want to take someone's life? No, but he presented himself as fantasizing about the blood and the killing and the power. So I absolutely believe that he did that. I'm glad NEO's cracking something happened after that grand jury. That's why I asked you, do you think David's going to be arrested before the beginning of April? Because it's coming. That indictment's coming, guys.
We expected him to get.
I think what's happened, frankly, is I once again, connecting the dots. I think there has been a request for immunity. I think he is invoked. I think he is worried, and his lawyer is worried about any kind of obstruction or any kind of accessory after the fact. The trips that were taken out of LA County are, if you were to design the factual scenario for an accessory after the fact, those would fit that the legal definition of somebody who is an accessory after the fact. I think the reason he was in there was to assert his Fifth Amendment rights. They probably went through that. And he said, no, I'm invoking the Fifth. They're now negotiating. And my guess is that
that's why he wasn't there that long, because he knew he needed to show up. He had already gotten arrested. When he got arrested, it wasn't even a big deal. He's like you could tell he was at his parents' house retreating. They have money. They didn't even want to testify. They were actually, they had lawyers and trying to file motions to get them out of needing to testify. And the judge said, nope, that's not going to happen. Either you come and you testify, or you will also be arrested. And hence why we see Neo going to testify. Could they be making a deal with him? Yes, absolutely. Does it mean it had to be that day? No. You're not going to make a deal in front of the grand jury, right? That's private dealings between lawyers and prosecutors, etc.
Either he or his attorney are now doing to Beth a proffer of some kind, saying, you give me immunity. This is what I'm going to say. This is what I'm going to tell you. And they're jumping through the hoops. This is a state case, not a federal. Federal, this would have been done already because the feds do this every single day.
I think, I don't know this, but I think he probably has already received immunity because that would be the reason he would turn on a dime this way.
And publicly.
Where David wouldn't.
Yeah, and publicly. He tried to pretend like it wasn't public, BT dubs, right? He tried to pretend like, oh, I'm posting this for my close friends and family, how he's separating himself, but it got to the public, it got to TMZ. He knew what he was doing. I love that you guys are talking about horror. This guy's talking about rituals. Probably Josh Marshall, Robert Morgenroth, both used to manage Lil Mosey before David. His sister made allegations that they tried to force him to do rituals. Wonder if that's got any truth to it. Yeah, who knows? I mean, maybe in David's mind, he wanted to do that. I mean, you can see him as a person is fascinated with death and blood and gore. It's everywhere.
Even necessarily know it. But, I agree with you. I mean, there's no way he didn't take the fifth because they had somebody who had interacted with him, a manager. He was there for 2 days, 40 minutes. He took the fifth. And I think it's a done deal. And that's going to be a problem for David if Neo is right that he has all this information.
He talked to a third party. We know that from his posting. The third party presumably was the manager. The manager was in there detailing everything he said, to which that is when the DA is then focused on him saying, we know what you told others. Right. If you don't want to be in the crosshairs as an accessory, as a co-conspirator, you now need to talk. And when they start talking that way, the lawyer's duty and obligation is to assert the fifth, get your immunity. They may have now gotten the immunity, but if they had, it wouldn't have been at the time that he was only in there for 40 minutes.
Where are you right now?
Yeah, they didn't do that in just 40 minutes, guys. I'm telling you, the next time I report on this case, I'm going to wait until something big happens again, and it will be an indictment or it will be an official statement or something that comes out about people turning and flipping on David. But I think the next time we hear something big in this case, it will be that the indictment came down on David. And I hope so. I hope that they do not give him a bond because he has the money, he has the cash, and he's a flight risk. He's one of those guys that wouldn't even blink an eye to go fly off somewhere. And if he really needed to, take his own life because he doesn't want to do time. He's just a big old, Edgar Allan Poe mood. I forgot the page because I unfollowed it. Oh, okay. All right, let's continue. We're almost done. Thank you guys for being here for almost the entire time.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
Are you?
Where are you?
Are you grilling later today?
What do you do? Where? You're not at home, are you?
There's these got propane tanks behind them. What kind of backdrop is that?
Where are you?
What are you doing?
I'm in the bucolic La Cañada neighborhood, and because Harvey moved me up, I'm actually standing in a gas station in the back. But it's very.
No, you found that is the prettiest gas station location I think I've ever seen. So kudos to you.
And
do not light a match. Do not light a match and throw it over your shoulder.
Back when I smoked cigars, this would have been the most dangerous area.
All right, we're done. They're done. They're just BSing. All right, guys, but what we need is justice for Celeste Rivas. That was the whole point of today. Neo Langston flips. David faces new allegations involving minors. I think that's going to come down at some point. But first, David's the target, and the arrest and the indictment is coming for you, David, for justice for Celeste Rivas. And I believe everybody else, they scared. Hey, if you don't talk, and you're going to be an accessory after the fact to this brutal dismemberment and capital M, right? Yeah, it looks like he's at a like one of those, you know, where you're driving on a long drive and they got the bathroom stops and that's what it looks like to me. But I don't know. RV park. Yes. All right, guys. Justice for Celeste. Happy St. Patty's Day. I hope you guys are all doing okay today. I hear a lot of different storms coming. People, you know, there's wind, there's ice. We're in California and we're having a heat warning right now? I think it was 80 some odd degrees today. So we're okay. Thank you, Jay and chat. Master Death, I hope we do this again. Your point of view is always appreciated. Hopefully we can help her get justice. Well, thank you, Stars, for being here. Stars D. And I'm so blessed to have FloJo on here. He's in chat talking. He knows what's up. I see his coverage. That's awesome. And all of you in chat, Justice for Celeste. Kel just gifted a membership. If you received a membership, please thank Kel. And welcome Kel to the mod squad, all right? Thank you so much, FloJo TV. I do appreciate you and everything that you do. And if I have any questions about this case, well, I know where to go. And I'm glad to see a person in this chat called Justice for Celeste. All right, you guys, much love. Thank you so much. Yes, FloJo TV rocks, and all the other up-and-coming creators, Mab, Kathy from True Crime Files, all of those. See, we got Mab here, go sub up to him. We got FloJo, go sub up to him. And then where are you, Kathy? I know you sent one earlier, but I don't know. Go sub up to Kathy. Are you still here? Where'd she go? Oh, she probably fell asleep. Anyway, good night, everybody. Love you, and I will see you tomorrow, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, guys. Mwah. Have a good night, and welcome, Kel. Thank you. Bye.
Guilty of crime.
I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my content, please share this video, like, and subscribe. You can also follow me over at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, or Gmail. If you'd like to donate to my channel, you can use Cash App or Venmo or PayPal. Thank you very much in advance. Guilty of crime.
Are you guilty?